Imagine this. You are enjoying a warm, relaxing cup of coffee on a beautiful sunny day. You stare out the window and listen to the birds sing. But then, another bird dies after colliding with the cold, hard glass windows of a building. Traveling at speeds around 15 to 20 miles per hour, these collisions can break the hollow, fragile bones of birds. These collisions kill around 1 billion birds every year. 50 billion birds will die in the next 50 years if these collisions continue, significantly reducing the current bird population. So, what will happen if birds go extinct? Remember that cup of coffee? Well, without birds, say goodbye to coffee. Insects could eliminate the food we need to survive, like coffee beans, if birds are not present to eat the insects and keep our ecosystem balanced. But no food wouldn't even be the only problem. Without birds, diseases like tuberculosis would spread rapidly because birds typically eat animal remains that would then be left out. 159 bird species have already gone extinct. So, how do we save the birds and fix this problem of collisions? First, animal communication needs to be studied more. More knowledge about animal communication can help scientists understand why birds collide with windows. What is confusing the birds into not realizing that the glass is there? In middle school, I first started learning about birds through Science Olympiad. In fact, I downloaded Discord solely for the purpose of playing a bird guessing game. I spent hours listening to and trying to differentiate between the calls of different birds. This experience piqued my curiosity into non-human communication, and it soon became like my Stanley Cup. I started to ask myself, what are the birds in my backyard singing to each other? What are the dogs saying when they bark at the doorbell? These questions led me to start researching non-human communication, and I soon came across the Earth Species Project. They use science to study animal communication. Their mission statement changed my life. More than 8 million species share our planet. We only understand the language of one. Now, I want to increase that statistic to help discover the voices of animals. I started a blog, Decoding Nature's Discourse, on which I discuss all types of non-human behavior. Animals communicate in 4 main methods: chemicals, sounds, touch, and visually. Let's go through some examples. The Michael Jackson of the bird world, the red-capped mannequin, does a moonwalk to visually attract a mate. As much as I would love to demonstrate this for you all, I think it would be best if I didn't. However, I do encourage you to Google it later. If a red-tailed hawk visited my backyard, all the birds would start calling out to each other as a warning. Communication using touch would be like mother tigers grooming and licking their cubs to comfort them. Finally, an example of communication through chemicals is coyotes peeing to mark their territory. Weird. I would say fascinating because the coyotes can actually pick up on these messages. Some of the 4 main methods of animal communication can also help stop these collisions. Many birds travel at night. Lights, especially in cities, can make birds get lost. The distraction of the lights is very hard on the birds. This makes it even more difficult for them to continue their journey safely. Lights don't typically hurt birds, but the loss of energy in trying to recover from the distraction does, decreasing a bird's stored fat supply. Birds travel thousands of miles in total during migration, taking weeks to arrive at their final destination. Stars are often used for navigation, and the artificial lights can confuse the birds. They don't have a GPS. Imagine trying to run from the northern border of the US to the southern border in front of someone who has their high beams on. Pretty difficult, right? Audubon's Lights Out program addresses this issue. The Lights Out program simply asks that people turn off lights at night. If you have completely opaque blinds, you can put those all the way down and continue to have the lights on. A cost-free and simple solution, you can try this at home and make a huge impact. Perhaps you might thank me later when your electricity bill goes down. To test the effectiveness of turning off lights, researchers from NYC Audubon and Cornell Lab of Ornithology conducted a study during the Tribute in Light Memorial in New York. This memorial honors victims from 9/11 by using light beams that shine from the ground to the sky. The researchers tracked the number of birds by the beams and their stress levels from vocalizations. They found that the beams could attract more than 150 times the average number of birds normally found in the area. But guess what? The beams being off for even a few minutes instantly allowed for the birds to continue their migration. In the video, you can see the light bulbs turn on and off, and when the light bulbs are off, there are less birds in the area. This study proves that you can save the birds by literally flipping a switch. The power is in your hands. Another issue is that birds sometimes see reflections of nature in glass, causing them to collide with windows. Scientists have suggested several different tapes, ropes, netting, stickers, and more that can be put on top of windows to break up the reflections. There are also new types of glass that have stickers built in. If you have vertical blinds, you can simply keep them half open to create a similar broken effect. Scientists have also recommended netting. If tightly tied 2 to 3 inches away from the glass, the netting can gently bounce the birds back. These solutions do cost more and can be difficult to implement at home since they are more effective when placed on the outside of the window. But they are very worth it. People can also use UV paint markers that only birds can see if they don't want to change the aesthetic of the building. The markers are around $7 and can be purchased on Amazon. They do wipe away easily though and can be gone within a few days. Altering the aesthetic of the building is worth it if it saves the lives of countless birds. Because you know what is not aesthetically pleasing? A bunch of dead birds. In October 2023, almost 1,000 birds died in one night after colliding with the McCormick Place building in Chicago. We must do better. The solutions I mentioned incorporate both visual and touch cues. But what about sounds and chemicals? Are there smells that could keep birds away from windows? Will the smells last? More research needs to be done to address these questions. Many factors can affect whether or not a bird collides with your building's windows. Location and weather are just 2 examples. Let's do a quick quiz. If you had to guess, would you say that birds knock into buildings with more than 12 floors, or homes and buildings with less than 12 floors more often? The answer is actually homes and buildings with less than 12 floors. Smithsonian researchers found that buildings between floors 4 and 11, according to a 2014 study, caused the most deaths, followed by homes and buildings up to floor 3. And the least deaths were caused by buildings with more than 12 floors. This order could be attributed to the fact that there are just less skyscrapers, but more birds are dying at lower heights. More needs to be done quickly to protect these birds from collisions. Some states are working on legislation to address these issues, but why wait? Try implementing one of the solutions I mentioned, of which at least one can have a huge impact regardless of where you live. I love coffee, but I love the birds more. Help save the birds. Help save your cup of coffee. Help save our planet. We all must do our parts as concerned citizens to better our world, one bird-friendly building at a time. Thank you.